What if the single most powerful leadership tool wasn't authority, experience, or intelligence, but curiosity? Today's guest believes that asking better questions could be the key to transforming teams, sparking innovation, and reshaping the future of work. Welcome back to the Grateful Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Wagoner, and today I'm joined by John Bassford, founder and CEO of Lateral Solutions, TEDx speaker, and the author of The Curious Leader. With a background in law, philosophy, and business, John helps organizations unlock innovation by cultivating curiosity at every level of leadership. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and as I was saying, I'm an extraordinarily curious person. And that's why I'm so excited about this conversation. If I could describe my success in one word, I think curious is the root of all of that. In one of your videos, I was watching you, and you said that when you first discovered curiosity as your superpower, you felt a little bit disappointed. You wanted something, I don't know, bigger. You wanted to wear a cape for it, you know? But as you've grown, obviously, that perspective has shifted a little bit. You wrote a book about it. So talk to me about how your curiosity has shifted and what's led it to do that.
Sure. So I first was kind of introduced to curiosity as my superpower. I want to say it was almost 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I was in a transition for work. Did what most people do is dust off LinkedIn and start reaching out to old colleagues and coworkers, that sort of thing. And a colleague of mine from undergrad introduced me to a colleague of hers who was in academia, and his specialty is helping people to define their superpower. So we did some quizzes and some interviews and all that type of stuff, and it came back as curiosity. And I was like, that's cool, like neat. At this point, I'd really done a lot in my career, had a law degree, had an MBA, and I had this reputation of efficiency, effectiveness, and decisiveness, and all of these things that I thought were going to keep me much more of my superpower. And then fast forward, I was working with a company on my brand and trying to grow my consulting and gear up for the book and TEDx and all that type of stuff. And once again, curiosity came up as a superpower. Again, she used the exact same words. So it's kind of like when two people are telling you something, it's like you can't ignore it any longer. So I really started thinking about it. And like similar to you, I think my whole life has been driven by curiosity. Taking on different tasks and roles as a kid, as an employee, studying abroad in college and doing a semester in DC in college, and just taking on every opportunity that's been presented to me. I didn't grow up with a lot of money or wealth or a privileged home, but I've done a lot, even in high school and college, because opportunities were presented and I jumped on them. And then you take that into my career. And when I heard the second time about curiosity, I immediately thought of my first job. My very first job, I'd done a training trip, and something just wasn't sitting right with me. And I was like, I'm being told to deliver this message to these individuals in training and how they should operate, what their roles and responsibilities are. But like I could find nowhere where this was written. I was like, it just bugged me, right? Like where is this written down? Where can I show them a piece of paper of this is their job, this is their role, this is their duty? And I went back with curiosity, loaded, and said, hey, look, where is this located? Like I'm being told, telling people this because I'm being told that, but where is this written down? It ended up being buried in the back of a manual, and I brought it to the forefront, and it drove everything I did in that job from that step forward. And again, it really just was all driven by curiosity, just not accepting the status quo of I'm being told to say this, so I'm saying it, but wanting the proof behind it, wanting that backup that I could show these people, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be doing it. And it made all the difference, and really just leaning into that aspect of just looking beyond the status quo, looking beyond this is the way we do things, and what is the most efficient and effective way to get the job done.
I love that connection of curiosity and innovation and finding new ways and challenging the status quo. I think there's a big difference or a misconception with what curiosity is. And there's a massive difference between that surface level curiosity and that true deep curiosity rooted in wonderment and true wanting abundance in life. Have you noticed this difference as well?
Yeah, right. There's the curiosity aspect of just being curious, right? Like the way a child is curious about every little thing and grabs our attention, and everything is new and exciting to them, right? And that's that kind of joy, and we lose that as adults. And kind of how I kind of reframed curiosity from the standpoint of kind of innovation, growth, and change is being intentional of looking beyond our current situations and our own limitations, right? Not just taking what is, like this is my life, I can't do any better, or this is the way we've always done things in the operations of the business, but not accepting that, and truly just having that curiosity, that inquisitive mind to look beyond those limitations and say, what else is possible?
Yeah, yeah. The what else is possible is huge. At this point in my life, I think about that a lot. I graduate high school tomorrow, so this has been a pretty exciting few weeks, and everyone's heading off on their different paths, and one of my biggest hopes is I'm just out of the spot where I would get to give a speech. But if I were to give a speech, you'll get a little inside my mind right here. I would say that we have all these paths that people want us to go on. We have all these set paths, but there is so much more possible. There is so much that we have yet to discover. And that's where true curiosity, that, like I said, wonderment with the world, that just pure joy that you can get and what you can extract from this life that we have, that's where that curiosity can be really helpful in creating your life that's uniquely yours.
Yeah, so something along that lines is, a word that also often comes up as purpose, right? What is our
Mhm.
purpose? And that's something, again, I had done a lot of things in my career, and I would managed a $10 million organization by the time I was 36 years old, and all of these great things. And I moved to consulting, and I wanted to take my consulting next level, so I started working with an executive coach. And one of the things that always I'm a jack of all trades, right? Law degree, MBA. I'm a certified association executive. I've worked with startups, nonprofits, everything under the sun. And my jack of all tradesness is kind of really my secondary superpower. But it also sometimes leaves me feeling like, what's my purpose? What's that singular thing that I was meant to do in this world? And I often struggled with that, to say, like, I got to find my purpose. And through my own journey of self-development and working with executive coach, kind of helped bring it out of me a little bit, is I started to redefine purpose. I think when something we're searching for, it becomes a noun. There's this objective purpose out there that we have to discover, versus looking at purpose as a verb. What do I want to do now? What winds my clock right now? Because I guarantee you, for the most part, what winds your clock right now at 18, 19 years old is probably not the same thing that's going to wind your clock at 35. So your purpose is going to change. And it's more about like finding, like, what is it that I can throw myself into? What can I be curious about? What I want to explore? What I want to do that maybe is outside the box, and just be committed to that for now and run with it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And you're right. Probably what I'm into right now is not going to be exactly what I'm into 20 years from now, or whatever, 10 years from now, maybe even five. Um, uh, a philosophy I've had for a pretty long time now is, like, don't make plans too far ahead. Just go with, like, make your decisions with what you are interested in right now. So for example, like studying what you want to study in college, don't think about it with what job do I want in 10 years. Think about it with what am I interested in right now, because that will open doors in the future to get you to the place that you want to be. Have you experienced that in your life?
Yeah, I think I'm a great example of that, right? I went to law school and have never practiced law a day in my life. But it's still, there's no more valuable educational experience in law school, I would say, just because of how it teaches you to think and look at things differently. And I certainly use my law degree every single day in my job, reviewing contracts, writing contracts, that sort of stuff. But I've never practiced law in that traditional sense. And yeah, take things in. The vast majority of people, what they went to undergrad for is now what they're doing for a career.
Hmm.
People who are, in business go to law school. People who or in communications or running accounting, right? Like it doesn't, like, for the most part, there's always a joke with law school of, people always ask you, what kind of law do you want to practice? The real answer is, who's ever willing to pay you to practice law in that area. That's like, you may
Yeah.
have your idea of what you want to practice law going into law school, but what you're going to end up doing is where you find a job and what they want you to do. You're not going to say, like, you know what, I don't really want to do criminal, or I don't want to do this type of civil, so I'm going to hold out for another job. No, you're going to take it. You're going to do the job. You're going to learn on the job, and then go, eventually go find what you want to do. So yeah, like, I'm a big believer in pursuing your passions. And again, passions, I don't mean, and I think you don't either, like, is this laissez-faire, like I'm just floating around chasing the butterflies? No, it's something that I'm passionate about. I want to do with my life, and I'm committing to that for now.
Yeah. So, heading back to curiosity, you've called it your superpower. What would you say is its kryptonite? What gets in the way of someone fully embracing curiosity?
I would say, especially for me and the entrepreneurial side of things, is I can chase a lot of things. When I'm working with my clients in helping them improve efficiency and effectiveness in their operations, I'm very honed in, and, like, we have a task to do, and I'm getting to a finish line for them. But when it comes to me and my endeavors with entrepreneurially, like, there's a lot of things on the plate. I'm getting ready to, hopefully the next 2 or 3 months, launch some curious assessments, a curious leader assessment, a curious culture assessment. I'm taking a forum that I do for my clients, and looking at efficiency of internal operations and turning that into an automatic assessment that's delivers a report and everything, to make it a little more streamlined. At the same time, I'm kicking the tires on a SaaS product. I have a SaaS product I want to get off the ground, and have some more calls about that this week. So I tend to take on a lot. I enjoy
Yeah.
doing that stuff. I love creating, right? Even though I'm an operations person, I am a change management person. So I like to initiate change. I like to create things. I like to grow things. I like to, transition and pivot things, versus, this is how things are. We just need someone to sit in this chair and manage what we do every single day. That's not me. So I'm always looking for that new angle, that new way I can help other people grow and change.
Yeah, yeah. As a very curious person, we have a lot of similarities as I keep talking to you. I'm seeing that, and yeah, sometimes my curiosity can feel chaotic as well. There's so many things I want to do, and so many different buckets, right? My guess and what I've found in my life is the solution to if that becomes a problem and making that less chaotic and feel less chaotic is asking better questions, being curious about better things, and asking myself what I value. What are these questions that we can start asking ourselves so that we're not pulled in too many directions?
Yeah, I mean, asking questions is vitally important, but also asking the right questions. That's the other piece too. Is you got to ask the right questions. In by that, what I mean by is asking questions that truly get to the heart of what you want to know. A quick little story about that. My wife and I were both independently shopping or seeing if we could get cell phone upgrades on our plan. We didn't know the other one was doing it, and I said, "Hey," went to her and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to upgrade my phone. Our plan it's like $1.15 more a month, and I can get a free phone." She's like, "I looked into that too, but, like, we're going to lose our credits for international data." I'm like, "Well, that's not at all what I discovered." And so she reached out to them again and said, "Hey, look, if we upgrade our plan to get a new phone, do we lose our international data credits?" Honest question. And the answer was, yes, you will. Now, the reality of that is, the true question is, in the new plan, what is our international data plan? Because the true answer was, yes, it goes away, because it's included in your new plan. You don't have to have the credits. You have 240 countries that you can get data for free when you travel. And so the credits no longer existed, right? So, like, getting to the heart of what you want to know, what is it that I'm trying to truly answer? Dive deep, ask it as, get vulnerable, get sensitive with yourself, and truly analyze yourself, and what desires you have, what your goals are, how do you want to live your life, just really ask some serious, honest questions of yourself. And by that, just start picking apart your answers, right? Almost be Socratic in how you deal with it and just help get down to like, what it is that I want to do with my life right now. What are the things I can do to get there? For me, when it comes to business and making money, the secret sauce is finding something that you're good at, that you enjoy doing, and how do you monetize that? And the only way you can do that is by being curious and doing some self discovery and then being curious externally of how do I make this happen?
Hmm. Um, what at what age did you start asking these questions? When did this all start for you?
So yeah, I would say that the curious nature in asking questions and challenging the status quo has kind of always been there for me. It's much more of an innate quality. Like I talk about in my book and in other podcasts is like, but I do believe you can learn to be curious. I don't think it has
Yeah.
to be innate for a leader or an individual to embrace curiosity. But for me, it certainly was always there. I was that kid growing up that just was willing to be argumentative and challenge the status quo, even as a kid, and was told my entire life, you should go to law school or you're going to be a lawyer, right? Like, that's just what I was told my entire life. I grew up in a very certain worldview, how I was raised in the culture there that I began to question and speak out against, a little bit. Again, by speaking out, I don't mean like, holding rallies, but like internally within my family, within the institutions I was a part of. And so it's really kind of always been there for me, like to just think deeper about things of why do I believe this? And do I believe this? And what are some other ways of looking at life, the world, et cetera? So, that's probably what led me to be a philosophy major in undergrad. It's just very much been an innate thing for me.
So, with these questions you ask yourself, you talked about being Socratic with it. Do you have intentional reflection periods? Do you write in a journal? Do you meditate? How's that reflection look for you personally?
Yeah, so I tend to meditate twice a day. I meditate.
Nice.
So my nighttime routine is to read. I tend to read nonfiction, self development books. Right now I am reading a book that's a series of stories about Zen Buddhism and mindfulness type stuff. That's the type of stuff I tend to read, and then I meditate. Sometimes it's 5-10 minutes, sometimes it's 15 to 20 minutes, just kind of like where my mind is and how blank I can make it and not be wound up in my thoughts. And then I also tend to usually meditate first thing in the morning to get my day started. I also kind of tend to, when I'm falling asleep in bed after meditating and waking up in the morning before meditating, I tend to try to bring myself into a more meditative state and just set some intentions, going to bed and waking up in the morning as well. And then throughout the day, I do try to find times. This part I'm kind of working on right now is finding times to just quiet the mind, right? Just get out, lessen the grind of the day, stop just doing busy work, and find just even 1 to 3 minutes to just quiet the mind, focus on breathing, and just open up to the world a little bit more.
Yeah, it's funny. This podcast is slowly turning into a meditation podcast. Every guest on here seems to have a meditation practice, and it's for any listeners or viewers, it's a pattern, right? These people that are outwardly successful are inwardly successful first. I love talking about success from the inside out because a lot of us, do you know Chris Williamson of Modern Wisdom, the
I
podcast?
do not.
Okay. Well, he has a quote, and he said that a lot of us sacrifice what we want for the thing that's supposed to get it. And I think that's another one of the things that I put on here a lot. But a lot of people are not happy because there's a thing that they want to get, and they sacrifice that thing for the work that's supposed to get you to it. Um, but a lot of the people that end up being abundantly successful on the outside and having the material success, that started on the inside. That started with your meditation and your reflection and the questions you ask yourself.
Yeah, well, I mentioned working with an executive coach earlier. About 5 or 6 years ago, when I was trying to take my consulting to the next level, and I thought I was going to be working on my business, and business strategies, and vision boards and that type of stuff. And what we ended up working on was me. It's what kind of launched me into a spiritual journey and meditation, everything. My coach has a podcast, and he had a guest on his podcast that's millennial multimillionaire. His specialty is copywriting. Lives in the Northwest. I think either Seattle or maybe even like Vancouver, Canada. But I heard the podcast. I was like, I got to talk to this guy. Like, he just gets the living as though your dreams have occurred already, even though they're not there. He just got that kind of mindset, law of attraction type thing naturally. And I was like, I got to learn from this guy. And so he and I had a conversation. And what really sparked my spiritual journey was after hearing my story and where I was, he recommended I read the book Soul Without Shame. And what this book is about understanding the ego. Here I am, 38, 39 years old, learning about the super ego and how our mind plays tricks on us, and that, I can be something I'd always struggled with. How am I this confident, secure, successful individual and still have a lot of moments of self-doubt and self-judgment and self-disbelief? And how do I square that circle? And that's really what this book is all about. And when I learned to quiet my mind, to lessen the times I have limiting beliefs, to reduce how long it lasts, that's really when things started to open up for me, right? I let things go. The other thing too, as an operations person who's a decisive decision maker, I tended to push and push to make things happen. And what I've learned through my journey is you cannot make things happen. You can do the work, you can do the steps, but at the end of the day, you can't make something happen. And so at a certain point, you have to have your direction, as we're even talking about life, right? Have your goals, have the direction you're heading, but let go of the end goal being on a pedestal that drives everything. And if you're not reaching it, then you're a failure and all these things. You got to learn to let go, have the drive, have the ambition, have the goalpost, the end zone you're shooting for, but let that individual goal go and just use it as kind of that vision board.
Yeah, you can't be too attached to the outcome. If the
Yep.
outcome
Right.
doesn't,
That's a better way to put it. Yep. 100%.
yeah, if the outcome ends up not being what you wanted it to be, it's not a failure. It's just it just went a different way, right?
And the reality is for people like us and other people who are entrepreneurial minded, curious, ambitious, the goal you set, like even when you achieve that, it's not going to be enough, right? Like if your
Hmm.
goal is to make $1 million, you're not going to stop there. Then the next goal is going to be 5 million. You hit 5 million, you're going to want 15 million, right? Like the goal is just the direction we're headed. That's not the end goal. I mean, when I started out with that executive coach, what my goal was to make per year. Occasionally I make that per month, right? And I never dreamed that I would be in this spot 4 or 5 years later. But I mean, that just the fact that we allow ourselves to see not hitting a goal as failure when really that goal is made up, right? It's where we are in that moment, and it's going to change one way or another when we get there. Whether we don't quite hit it, we go a different direction and have a different goal, different path, or we go beyond that. It's a made up thing of where we want to go, and like you said, we got to let go of it.
Yeah. Um, all right. Well, there are two things I want to touch on from that. The first thing is you talked about when you started working with this coach, you thought it was going to be very much about business, and then it ended up being about yourself. I think this is very, very powerful, and it led me to thinking about something. A lot of your work is with teams, right? And working with operations within teams and businesses and them scaling, but a lot of them are already pretty established, and they scale from there. There's been this new movement of the solopreneur recently. I'm one of them. I don't have a team around me. And these people are able to to create companies and produce the work of an entire media team with just themselves and ChatGPT and the internet, right? So how does this curiosity element and everything that you do fit into a business model where it's just a singular person by themselves?
Yeah. So I do tend to work with teams, but I also like something I do talk to a lot of solopreneurs, and the question always becomes, at what point do I go beyond being a solopreneur?
Hmm.
I'm going to touch on that as well, real quick. Which to me, it's look, if you're doing everything yourself, you're building a C team. And no one on the outset would say, I want to build a C team. You cannot be good at every little thing. Doing your own bookkeeping as well as doing your own marketing and your contract reviews and your market research, right? You can't be good at everything. So at some point, if you want to continue to grow and scale, you got to bring in people that have expertise in some areas. And again, that doesn't mean a full-time team. I'm a big fan of the gig economy. I don't have an in-house team. I don't have a W-2 team. I have a team of fractional COOs that work with me. I have a fractional CMO company that works with me. So I still get all the things done, get the expertise I need without committing to full-time people. And I think a lot of times that's better. So I would say this is like, no matter who you are and where you are, operations, efficiency, how we get things done still all matter. So looking at finding the best ways for solutions. And the other part of this too, for the individual, kind of going back to what we are talking about earlier about purpose and everything else, is like, you also don't enjoy doing everything. And
Mm,
if you are doing 95% of things you hate to do the 5% you love, you're going to get burned out so much quicker. So you got to learn to let go. I would say even for the solopreneur, sometimes you got to let go of a little bit of money. It's tough for us solopreneurs because it's not a true business in the sense of every dollar that comes in goes to you, right? It goes to your personal taxes,
mhm.
right? It goes to your bank account. It goes to, you might have a business bank account, but then you transfer it over to your personal, right? So to some degree, every dollar brought in is personal living money. And it's
Yeah.
hard to let go of that. But at a certain point, if you want to continue growing, you want to be happy in what you're doing, you got to find these places in the gig economy that you can tap into. I'm a big fan of Upwork. And utilizing services from there, find fractional people that give you the expertise you need without the price of a full-time person, and find ways to just use the resources at your exposure to continue to grow and scale.
Yeah, Upwork, Fiverr, great platforms
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there. Yeah. I know that in the future I want to have a team around me of people that are experts in things. I mean, my first business model was a YouTube automation company where I had a faceless channel and I hired people that were very good at what they did. Like I had a script writer, a thumbnail designer, a video editor, a voiceover artist, all specialists, and I got hundreds of thousands of views. But and then I do this and I'm doing everything by myself. I no longer have the capital to do that. So it's it's a hard sacrifice to make as an entrepreneur because you know that what's going to get you to the point where you do have more capital faster and you grow faster is by investing that capital up front in great A team players. Steve Jobs always said, like, you get A players because A players want to work with A players. So that's an interesting balance, and I think as I move forward, it's going to be a pivotal decision for me, as it will be for many other solopreneurs.
Yeah, and speaking of A players in building teams, I think there's something that's been happening in our society for a while now, where we often confuse A personalities with A players.
Mm,
And I've worked with some people like that. Like if you are, I mean, I was told there's someone I wanted a boss to hire, and the person was described as frumpy. I'm like, who cares? Who cares how they dress and how they look, right? And what he really meant by that is like, I want someone that looks and acts a certain way in an A personality way. And the problem that they ran into was they built a team of all these A personalities that were ambitious, goal oriented. You know what? Every single one of them wanted a raise after 3 months, and
yeah.
then they would get pissed about that. Like I'm like, what do you expect? Like these are ambitious, driven people, and not every A player has to be an A personality. So I also always take a look at that too, and make sure you're getting the skills that you need, because quite frankly, some some positions in an organization, you don't want A players, or sorry, A personalities. You want A players, but not A personalities, because you want that just stable person who's going to be there for a long time, do their job, and create that consistency in the organization, and not have this revolving door of people because they're constantly looking for more money and new opportunities.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hire myself because I don't think that I would ever be satisfied doing like a one thing of a job for someone else, right? And that's an interesting thought to have because you want someone that's ambitious, obviously, but you want them to be ambitious for the company, for the whole, not necessarily for themselves and their personal goals.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same way, right? And it's not necessarily just about me wanting more money or things, but like I'm not a status quo guy. Like
Hmm.
when operations turns into just maintenance, just keeping the trains on the track versus building the track, that's when I get bored. I don't like to feel stagnant. In my life, in my career, in what I'm doing, and so I'm constantly looking for like how can I change things. And at a certain point, you know, I don't think you should ever. I don't think you can ever really run out of things to change, but the changes change, right? The changes aren't as big. They're not as fun. They're not as creative. You're making little tweaks and changes here and there, and I like impact. I like to,
Hmm.
for my clients, like I'm working with a startup right now that's doing some amazing things in the food science industry, and I'm like there's just some things like we've got to change this. Like I'm going to save this company, you know, $10,000 a month, if not more, just by reducing the amount of time that everyone is putting into these tasks. And that's what I like to do, right? I like to provide that impact on an ongoing basis. And for me, I like to get in there, make some changes, show them how to do it, set them up for success, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it reminds me of the when I said I had two things I wanted to say off that uh, little point you had earlier. Uh, it reminds me of that. You have talked about the ambitious personality, never having enough, right? Always wanting more, finding the next thing, setting the bar higher once you reach that goal, and just constantly climbing and climbing with no end in sight. And this is one of the reasons I launched this podcast because I'm an overachiever. This is the root of the lack of peace in my life if I have that. It's this always wanting more, chasing success. It's this ambition. So the reason I call this the Grateful Podcast is because what I've learned is my hypothesis is that the cure to this, the ideal life, is when you have a balance of gratitude and ambition. You're grateful for what you have right now while chasing something in the future. And that gratitude for now, it's not complacency at all. It's propelling you to get more in your life.
100%. And without gratitude and self reflection of where you are, where you've been, where you've come from, you tend to miss the points where, like, you know what? I'm actually achieving my goal that I had 4 years ago. My annual goal, I'm now achieving that this month. I achieved it in 1 month. So if without gratitude, you miss those moments. And the gratitude, again, we talk about meditation. Like meditation is a time to kind of just can quiet the mind. And one thing, I had a rough 2024. I had some transitions in my business. I had a side project that had some delays with money coming in. It was a pretty rough year for me. And one thing that kind of snapped me out of that and be able to refocus on being positive was like, you know, I have all the money I need. Like revenue is not where I want it to be. My business isn't where I want it to be right now because of these transitions. But there's nothing in the world that could happen to me today that I am not prepared for. That I don't have the money to handle the issue. Whether my car were to blow up or kid got sick or whatever it may be, I have everything I need for today. And talking about letting go is like where our pain and suffering comes from is either looking at the past or looking at the future. If we're truly looking at the now, there's usually a lot less suffering and being grateful that like you know what, I may not have food in my fridge in 2 weeks, but you know what, I do today. Or I have a mechanism to get the food, even if it's not in my fridge today. I have a resource. You know, like be grateful of the little things that you have in your life, big and little, that remind you that like, you know, everything's okay and the universe looks out for me. That's not to say that there aren't people with really tough situations that are going through a lot, you know, whether it's poverty or some other issues, right? I don't want to take away from the fact that there are people less off than I am, but there's always a way that you can find gratitude to be grateful what you do have that truly does, you know, I believe in the law of attraction that truly opens up the opportunity to move beyond that and have that be a routine that in just knowing and trusting that the universe is always looking out.
So how does that gratitude propel you toward those goals that you keep setting higher?
Yeah, so you know, it's you know, for me, I don't care about the material aspects of wealth and abundance. For me, it's about having the dream home that I get to share with my family. It's about doing trips with my son, with my wife, right? Like I care about the lifestyle of it all more. Like I have no desire. If I had $100 million landing in my bank account tomorrow, I would not go buy a Lamborghini. I mean, that's what everyone like. I'm very connected to the real estate world and a lot of entrepreneurs in the real estate world, and that's what they all do, right? And I'm not knocking it. That's none of them are doing it, you know, wastefully. They can afford to do it, but that's not what I would do. I would do a trip around the world, first class, right? That's how I would spend my money. So for me, it's all like, what could how you know, and I also focus on not the revenue side of things, but what products, what solutions can I build they're going to help other people innovate, grow, and change. That's my goal. I want to use my skills, my resources, my abilities to help other people achieve growth, people and organizations go further, right? That's my goal. And so when I focus on that, it's more about impact than the revenue I can bring in from that.
Yeah, I love the idea of impact over everything else. I try to think about that. I think it's hard to get to that point, but once you are, it it's a fulfilling thing. You just get you optimize. I love to think about optimizing for fulfillment over any other type of success. And impact is what seems to bring that fulfillment. It fulfills others and it fulfills you simultaneously. There's no better outcome, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I did before this podcast. I did a call with a prospective client who responded to an ad, and quite like I'll be honest, like there's no way that this organization can afford to pay me what I normally charge. No way at all. But I love the conversation, and I didn't like I want to help this lady out. Like it'll probably be for free. I'll probably do 2 or 3 calls with her to help give her some guidance and give her my thoughts and lead her the way that she can kind of do it herself without me doing tactical work. But like I loved her energy. I loved what we talk about. She's also a change agent. But like I didn't end the call and not agree to do another call because I'm likely not going to get any money from that. If my goal is truly to help people innovate, grow, and change, like she is the ideal person because she's so hungry for it. She wants it. She gets it. We're very much aligned. I'm like, this is someone I want to help and can help. And so like I'm going to dedicate some time to that, whether I see any money or not, because I truly want to help other people grow.
But I mean, the ripple effect you'll have from that will be profound as well, because odds are when you help her and she makes it, she'll give away her service to people that need it and might not be able to pay. When you cultivate curiosity in a community, it seems to help everyone thrive.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. We didn't really talk about that. I had a TEDx that got released about a month ago, and the story I tell in the TEDx is through kind of a podcast interview type thing that I was doing with some nonprofits associations. I heard about Corning, New York. It's upstate-ish New York. I don't know if they consider upstate, but it's a small town of like 10,000 people. And there was an amazing story that came out of this that really tied to curiosity, which was that COVID was about to hit or was hitting. And the executive director, again, got curious and asked her staff some questions like, what if this isn't over a few weeks? What can we do to help? Who can we rely to help? to be a part of this, and they created this program where they allowed these 250 small businesses to sell gift cards online, even businesses who didn't have websites. And because of this, they brought Corning Incorporated, which is a glass company. They matched every dollar that was spent. And throughout COVID, this community that has this big corporation, Corning Incorporated, and a bunch of small businesses, not a single business went out of business. It was all because they used curiosity to think like, what if this is a problem? First of all, like, is there a problem? What happens if it happens? And then what can we do to help? And then who can we rally to help? And they did each step of that process, and it really was like gave me goosebumps when I heard this story, and I was like, I got to incorporate this in my TED talk, TEDx talk, because it really does emphasize that like curiosity opens us up to solutions, both our own ideas, but also in the resources and people that we can connect with that help us look beyond just ourselves and our own perspectives, our own ideas, and truly embrace everything as a community.
I love that. That's a great story too. I love that. I'll have to check out your TEDx. I saw it there, and it was one of the videos I was going to watch, and then I looked at other stuff instead. But yeah, I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah, the TEDx experience was amazing. It's one of those things that was on the bucket list and did it, and it just was an amazing experience. And I was working on my talk when I came across the story. I was like, this is the quintessential story of how curiosity allows us to look beyond our current situation and our limitations, right? And how do we break down problems? How do we solve problems? How do we bring in the resources that we need, whether people, money, whatever it may be, to help achieve things? And it really kind of rounded out the TEDx and left a lot of people inspired.
100%. Yeah. Are you gonna do some more TED Talks in the future?
Yeah, I still apply to some, here and there. So this one was kind of a little more on the curious aspect. The DIY dilemma was a part of it, but my next one actually that I've been pitching around to some TEDx organizations is talking about the stories we tell ourselves and how to rewrite them to rewrite our life. And it's really looking about. We talked earlier about when we truly are in the present and in the now. Like our problems for the most part tend to go away. That what we're mainly haunted by are the stories of the past and the prospects of the future. Which, if you listen to people like Alan Watts and Wayne Dyer and those people, they say that those two things don't exist. And people might say, well, the past does exist, but that's not what haunts us. The facts of the past is not what haunts us. It's our attachment to it. It's our perspectives of it. It's we don't look at a mistake we made and say, oh, we made a mistake. It's like, I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I affected all these people. Whatever it is, right? It's our attachment and stories to the past is what haunts us. But if we truly, live in the now and just, again, kind of have that gratitude moments and all that sort of stuff, we're a lot more happy. We can get a lot more done, and just allows us to have that greater mindset.
Are you familiar with the narrative identity theory?
I don't think I am.
Okay, so I learned about this in high school philosophy class. We were talking about all the different ways that we could, like all the different schools of thought about who am I, the person, right? And there's the body, there's the mind, there's all these different things. But the one that I latched onto the most was the narrative theory, which is that we are who we tell we ourselves we are. That was hard to say for some reason. Oh, we create these stories out of the past and out of the future, and we're the summation of our stories. And that's what that reminded me of. And it seems so simple, so obvious, but it just seems so correct. We create these stories about ourselves, and that is who we are to ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Like, who are you, John? I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a consultant. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. Well, if I were to get divorced, I don't stop being me. So how is being a husband who I am? If I never would have had kids, like I'd still be me. If I changed careers, I'm still me. Like it's The other kind of connotation put around that is labels, right? We put labels on ourselves. It's an identity that we create through labels, and they're not the true self. It's a construct that we create and society creates, and in a way we put things in a package. But the true self is, again, like that internal energy, that mind that controls the mind, that can hear the mind thinking. Again, these are things that I'm still learning and growing. I'm actually going to start going to a Buddhist temple for some like guided meditations that they do as a group. Because I need to go beyond myself, right, and just my readings, and tap into a group, and explore and experiment, and with my journey in the spiritualism and mindfulness stuff, like this little things move the needle, right? Like it's, I don't have these big huge jumps and leaps and kind of my understanding of things, but just little pieces that move the needle. A book that maybe it's somewhat the exact same thing I've read in 5 other books, but they describe it in a certain way, that just sparks something new, right? Sparks a new idea, and even that concept of looking at gratitude as, even though things aren't going where I want with my business and monetarily, I have all the money I need. Like nothing can happen today, probably even this week, probably even this month, probably even this year, that I couldn't survive based upon the money in my bank account, right? So like, what am I worried about? Stop worrying. So like, just tapping into new solutions and ideas, and ways to look at all of this.
I love that. And yeah, something I was thinking about before we hopped on our call is in this modern age, curiosity is interesting because now more than ever, we have the ability to quench some of that curious thirst. We have an abundance of information, so much information none of us could ever come close to fully absorbing, right? Um, but then there are the answers that we'll never have. And those are the answers that you're still seeking. You're going to go to a Buddhist temple to try to find answers to a curiosity that like you could never find on Google. You could try. Maybe AI has some type of answer for that, but it's not going to feel satisfying. So again, there's this difference in curiosity of like, why is the ocean blue? And then what who am I? Like those are very different questions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even Buddhism would say that if you're seeking for a solution, then you're never going to find it, right? When it comes to Buddhism and mindfulness and that sort of thing. So for me, it's about the journey, right? Like what's I'm on a journey. I don't have an end destination, or at least I shouldn't have an end destination. Like the end destination is, reaching this level of consciousness and mindfulness to where, I have no worries, I have no doubts. I know the universe will provide, and all of these things, and just live a life of joy and abundance and all that sort of stuff. But like having that goal puts it on a pedestal, right? Like I gotta, like I'm on a journey, and that's all it should be. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm finding new ways to expand, and look at things differently, to live a more joyful and abundant life, and I think that this is a small little piece that might help along the journey. It's not going to create a destination or a goal, or achieve something, but just keep the journey going, and make some improvements.
100%. Well, John, I think we've covered a lot today. And I think that's a perfect way to end that. Like the journey, talking about how there's no goal. I just finished rereading Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. I fully recommend it to you, to everyone listening to this. It is one of those books that it just takes you into a different state. It just seems to import itself, download itself into your consciousness. It's fantastic. And one of the main realizations was that if you have a goal, if you're striving, you're not going to have that peace. So it's figuring out how to balance that with the presence, which we talked about with gratitude and ambition. There's just so many different takeaways. So I recommend that to you, to
And
find
tell
more.
me the name of the book one more time.
It's Siddhartha, like the Buddha's first name.
by
Yeah.
by Herman Hesse.
Yes.
Okay, I pulled it up on
Yeah.
Amazon. I have seen that cover before, so I have come across that, but I don't think I've ever, apparently did not never ordered it. So I will add that to my queue, and read that.
Sounds good. It's a short one too.
Okay, great,
And
great.
it's one of those that like when you were talking about a second ago with like even if you read a book and it's the same information as the one, just a different spin, like this is one of them that you can read the exact same words multiple times, but every time you come back to it, you'll have a different perspective. And it's so I like highlighting different passages in different colors each time I read. So I'm like, oh wow, 16-year-old Jack really found that interesting. 18-year-old Jack finds this interesting.
100%. And I know we're wrapping up here, but like it made me think of Heraclitus's quote of the same man can never throw a stone in the same river twice. There's two aspects of that, right? There is the river. The river is always moving. By definition, a river is always moving, and so where the stone hits one time is not where it hits the next. But also the man changes, or the person changes. I don't mean to make it sexist. The person changes because the first time you were a person who had never thrown a rock into that river before, and the second time you were. So we're always changing as well, which is why these words and stories and everything, those similar and the same, speak to us differently.
Yeah, and you're already thinking about rivers moving. You're gonna love this book. I just know
Okay,
it.
okay, good. Sounds good.
Yeah. So tell my audience where they can find you.
Sure. The best place is go to my personal brand site, johnbassford.com. Jon Bass like bass like a fish, Ford like a car. If they want to reach out, see more what I do on the consultant side, they can go to think-lateral.com, and that's my consulting website. But feel free to check out the websites. Also has connections there to social media, and we got some exciting things coming up the next couple months. And stay tuned.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll link all that in the description as well, so everyone can find it there. John, thank you so much for this conversation. So many wonderful insights.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I appreciated it and enjoyed it.
Sweet. Man, that was awesome.
Great.
Fantastic.
It was
Thank
a
you.
good conversation.